Morning, John here for a Sunday morning, and it's lovely and sunny, a bit crisp and cold, and I'm here to share my favourite blending tool with you, for oil pastels that is, but it can be used for other purposes. But first I'm going to show you some of the other blending tools, and then at the end I'm going to show you my favourite out of all of them. Blending is a very important technique, and it is quite difficult to find the perfect blender because not all pastels blend with what you feel might be the perfect blender, and not all blenders lend themselves to doing what you want them to do. So it's good to have a variety, and in this video I'm going to show you some of the tools that I have, which I have in my hand, and then I'm going to show you my favourite. Now, it's fair to say that I have a lot of blenders, and a lot of them can be used for other things. I have spent my time getting this set together for my art group mainly, but for anybody else that wants them. I only have a few sets left, and if anybody is interested in any of these, then you'd have to give me a shout. But we're looking at like £30 worth of blenders here, and I would be selling them for substantially cheaper than that. So if anybody ever wants them, let me know. But you'll see more of this as we go on. But one of my blenders are these colour shapers. Now, I have touched on these before, so I won't go on about them much, but you really only need the tapered colour shapers. The other ones, they really do not lend themselves to oil pastels, if I'm being perfectly honest. Well, that's what I found anyway. Now, you've got the grey tip, which is a firm tip, and then you've got the black tip, which is an extra hard tip. Now, you really only need two sizes, a large and a small, so probably them kind of sizes. I've got a larger one in a harder black shape, and I've also got a slightly smaller one, but they're not needed. Now I also have these two that are a bit bigger than this one, and you find occasionally that some of them have this really sharp tip on them. I don't know if that's going to be any good because I haven't actually used that one yet, but most of them are kind of like beveled like this sort of shape. Anyway, so that's the colour shapers, and they are very, very good. So let's open my set. Put that to one side for the moment. Teasing you there. Right, so I never ever use these on oil pastels, but I know some people do, and they are very handy. I use them mainly on pastel pencils and graphite pencils, and sometimes soft pastels. So that's your paper stumps. I have them as part of my set. I also have these blenders. I don't really know what this blender will do. This side will be very good, and it's kind of like on the larger side, but these felt parts, I'm not really sure what they're going to do as yet. I think they may hold the oil pastel too much and become too dirty. But I'm going to be using them at some point, so they're quite interesting. I also have these makeup brushes. They also give you a very nice smooth texture. But then we get into some of these other things. I'm just going to empty this. So we've all seen these by now, I'm sure. These are the rubbing tools. These are specially made for oil pastels. And you have a pointed version, you have a beveled version, and then you have a chiseled version. I have found that in the main I only use the pointed version, and on occasion I use the beveled version if I'm using this sharp edge for things like thin lines. So we've all seen them by now, and they are very good. Another version of these is these ones, and they're kind of similar to these ones here, but these are made especially for oil pastels again. However, they are very soft, so they're going to give you a slightly different blend. This one here, the smaller one, is slightly harder, but that's the nature of it. Because it's a lot smaller, it automatically becomes harder. This one is very soft. I'd say these would be very good for skies and clouds, and perhaps these for softer blends in different areas. And then we have these newest looking ones that I've seen. I think these are going to be brilliant. I'm just going to take them out of the wrapper. These are extremely similar to a paper stump, but they have this sponge on the end, and they also have a slightly beveled or rounded end as well. I think, I've just had a quick play with these, I think these are going to be worth their weight in gold, and these at some point could be vying to be one of my favourite blenders. So there's several different types of blenders there. I've put them all together in a set, and my art group has this set, and at some point hopefully I can offer them out to other people. So if you're interested in anything like that, you'd have to let me know. So let's get on to the favourite one, shall we? And I'm going to blow your mind, firstly because you're going to be probably a little bit disappointed, but don't be. Before I say this, I'm going to say that ordinary cotton buds are superb, absolutely superb, but they are not like these. These are cotton buds. Now if I take one out, you'll be able to see them better. These are like cocktail sticks with cotton on the end, and these have proven to be my art groups and my favourite blenders. Now they're going to take a little bit of time to do big areas, but they are very good for blending small details and drawing small details. So I'm going to try and show you what I mean. At the beginning, not all oil pastels are going to blend in the same way. So, but I have found that these little cocktail stick cotton buds absolutely blend everything. So if I put a Mark pastel on here, right, generally I wouldn't use this to blend such a big area. But you can see by blending and keeping it on its side a bit, it gives me a lovely smooth blend. And it pushes all the oil pastel into the paper. And this is going to help you to achieve more layers. Right, another trick with these is that they are going to get dirty at some point like this, and you can use the dirty ones to draw details. Okay, if they don't get dirty, all you have to do is to feed and twist them onto your oil pastel and draw in detail. So there I could get branches of trees like this, look, and I could get masts of boats like this, all sorts of things. Now the other thing that these are good for, if I just double layer some colours, I'll put a yellow at the bottom. Oh, look at how dirty that yellow is. That's disgusting, John, you should know better, but it's only a demo. So if I put that at the bottom and then I put this brown on top, okay, I'd really want to blend that in a bit first, so we just blend that in a bit with our fingers. It won't matter because we're not going to see it. And then I go over the top with a darker colour. The other end of the stick is also great for scratching. Look at that. It's one of the best scratchers that I've found. So we've had this blending, we've had this drawing, and we've had the scratching. 3 techniques from such a simple little item. Look at that. That is fantastic. That is by far and away my most used and favourite blender. Now, if I was doing something like, I don't know, let's say for argument's sake, the side of a boat, right? It's going to be very difficult for me to get into that corner. And this is where details come in. And I can use this to just go right up to that corner and sharpen everything up. Look at that. Now that is quite a difficult thing to achieve in oil pastels, but this blender for me does it all. And let's just put a mast up there, shall we? There we go. Draw some details in. See, that's another thing you can do, is that you can actually draw your details on top of whatever else you've got, like that, and you can then use this to colour in, or you can use another colour to colour in, and just put a little bit of colour in there, and it's going to be dirty, but and then you can use this to spread out the oil pastel into these areas, and that way you can get very minute and very good details. And I absolutely love this. Another thing you can do is get a softer scratch out of this by using the cotton end to scratch with, and you get a softer, and the less you press, the softer it will be. So let's just do that again. Put a colour on the bottom, a colour on the top. Say for argument's sake you wanted some distant grasses, you can use the cotton end to just gently put in distant grasses, or you can press a little bit harder but get a softer look. Alright, and then you can put your foreground grasses in with the other end, and then you're going to get some 3-dimension in there. So all in all, this is by far and away my favourite blender. It gets scratches, softer scratches, details, drawing and minute blending. That, for what it is worth its weight in gold. Now, this would come as part of my blending set if you ever wanted them. I would have to see what people want, because they're not readily available, all of these things. So I would have to source them and see if we can get them. And I would make them up into a set, and if available, I would supply them to you. But isn't that brilliant? Isn't that brilliant? So I don't know, you press a little bit harder with this, you still get a softer blend. Look at that. And then you can go on with your sharp end, getting all the details, or all the foreground details. Look at that, we've got grass already. Right, okay, so I promised you, didn't I, that when I got to 2,000 subscribers, and I promised you way back when I was probably only on about 500 subscribers, that I would tell you my favourite blender. I hope I haven't disappointed you. I hope I have shown you the value of one of these. They're not like a normal cotton bud, because you couldn't use a normal cotton bud in quite the same way as you could use this, and the reason for that is because of this very sharp detailed end. Now obviously you can also use this with mineral spirits, and you could probably use that to turn this into paint and get sharper details that way. So that's that. And I've promised you at 3,000 subscribers, which I'm now starting to push towards, I will tell you one of my favourite techniques. So I hope you found that interesting. I told you it wasn't the biggest thing in the world, didn't I? But so many uses. And sometimes the best things come from the smallest things. And I should know because I'm only 5'5". So anyway, whomever, wherever you are, please have a great day, a great week and a great year. And of course, always be kind. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for now. Bye.